let's spend some time comparing decimal numbers. So a helpful strategy that you can use is using the place value chart to help you to determine what number is your greatest number, which one has the greatest value, and which one has the smallest or the least value. Now remember, in 4th grade we talked about comparing whole numbers, and we began comparing decimal numbers with tenths and hundredths. And we used just like 2 tenths, and we had seen that that was equal to 20 hundredths. Or we compared 2 tenths and 3 hundredths. And remember, we had to change those denominators. 2 tenths is equivalent to 20 hundredths. Well, this already had hundredths, so now we could see 2 tenths or 20 hundredths is greater than 3 hundredths. So now we're going to be diving a little deeper into our decimal numbers this year. And so, like I said before, a strategy for comparing numbers, both whole numbers and decimal numbers, is to use the place value chart. So let's go ahead and turn to our place value chart. So here you can see we have our whole numbers to the left of the decimal. These are our whole numbers. Whole numbers. And then over here to the right of the decimal, we have our fractions, those parts of a whole, which remember, fractions and decimals are the same thing, they just look a little different. Now, let's take a look at, I'm going to give you a number. We're going to say 524 and 31 hundredths. So what I want to do, I'm going to actually place this number on my place value chart. And I'm going to help myself out a little bit. I'm going to put kind of a dividing line between my whole numbers and those fraction numbers. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my place value chart, and I'm going to fill in everything just to the left of the decimal. And if I were to just read that part of the number, it says 524. So I'm going to fill that part on my place value chart. 524. Now I'm going to look at everything to the right of the decimal, my fraction numbers, the fraction part of the number, and here I have 31. So the 3 comes just to the right of the decimal, so it's in the tenths place, and then I have a 1 in the hundredths place. Remember, wherever your last digit falls, if it's to the right of the decimal, it takes the place value name as well. So 524 and 31 hundredths. Okay, so I have that on my place value chart. But now I want to compare it to a couple of other numbers. And I'm going to rewrite this. So I had 524 and 31 hundredths. Okay, now I'm going to compare it to a couple of other numbers. Let's say I'm being given a list of numbers to compare. So I'm going to write out a couple of other numbers, and I'm going to make it a little challenging because I'm not going to line these decimals up. I'm just going to use some numbers. Now, I have the first one on my place value chart already, but I I want to put the other 2 on my place value chart. So again, I'm going to use that strategy of just kind of separating my whole numbers from my fractions. And I see that to the left, in my second number, to the left of the decimal is a 5 and a 2. And well, we know how to say that, 52. So I'm going to fill that part in on my place value chart, 52. And then I'm going to come over to the right of my decimal in that number, and I see that I have a 4, a 3, and a 1, 431. So I'd say that the way that it looks, except for then I'm going to give it that last name of thousandths, because my 1 this time is in the thousandths place. So 52 and 431 thousandths. So that's my second number. And then I'm coming down and I'll do the same for the third number in my list. Again, I'm going to separate my whole number from my fraction. And then I'm going to place it on the place value chart. So here I have 5,243. That's all to the left of my decimal. To the right of my decimal, I just have a 1. 1/10. So if I'm comparing these numbers, I don't even have to look at the decimal side of my number, because what I can see is that I have 524, I have 52, and I have 5,243. Well, I know that 5,243 is going to be my largest or my greatest number, the number with the greatest value. Because I would certainly want to be given $5,243 over $52 or $524 if I had to choose the greatest value. So that's a pretty easy way to see and compare numbers in the place value chart, even decimal numbers. Now, what if we're being given some numbers like this? Okay, so here I have 2 numbers, and let's say I'm not very familiar with that place value. I'm not sure exactly where this 2 lives. I'm not exactly sure how to say this 11. But what I can see is that I have one digit to the right of the decimal in my top number, but I've got 2 digits to the right of my decimal in the second number. Well, I know that if I were looking at these as whole numbers, I saw 11 and I saw 2 and I was comparing these, well, I know 11 is greater than 2. It's got 2 digits in it. There's one in the ones place, one in the tens place. So, I just know it's more valuable. 11 is greater than 2. But with decimals, I'm a little thrown off. I need to think about, what does that actually look like? Which one has the greater value? So I'm going to again use my place value chart to compare these 2 decimal numbers. I'm going to say the first number is 0, which is to the left of the decimal, and then the 2 is to the right of the decimal. So there's my first number. And then my second number, I'm going to place it on the chart, and I'm going to say, well, again, I have a 0 to the left of the decimal, and then I have 2 ones. Now, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to start going through from left to right, from the greater value, and work my way down to the lower values. And I'm going to compare the values in each, or the digits in each place value. So I'm going to start with my ones place. That's the highest value in this number. And here I have a 0. I have a 0 in the first number, and I have a 0 in the second number. So this place value has equal value at this point. So now I'm going to move to my right. So I'm going to kind of skip over the decimal point. I'm going to go to that tenths place. I'm going to look at those tenths. And I'm going to say, well, in the first number I have a 2. In the second number I have a 1 in the tenths place. Well, I know that 2 is greater than 1. So therefore, I now realize that my first number has, the greater value. Because 2 is greater than 1. And even though we just have one digit in that first number to the right of the decimal, that's okay. Because remember, in 4th grade, we said, oh, but 2/10 is equivalent. It's equal to 20 hundredths. So now if I were comparing these, I would say 2/10 is greater than 11 hundredths.